Well, hello everyone. It's Tuesday. A lot of stuff happening right now with respect to jobs, JOBS, and the fact that there are not as many of them as we thought there were. Certainly, the numbers for the summer were atrocious in general, and the August numbers, which were released last Friday, didn't look any better than what we'd seen as revised in previous months, especially when they did revisions to June to show that there was actually a net loss in jobs in June. There are some sectors that are seeing growth, like healthcare. Many sectors, however, are not, and that includes manufacturing. So it is possible that once we actually start getting a better understanding at a local level, that we're going to see some disparities in how these national numbers are affecting local areas. And then also, there's additional information I mentioned in the article about the first quarter QCEW numbers, which really gives you a good, solid picture of where jobs are. It takes time to get these numbers. The numbers for the end of March, first quarter, only came out last week. And there's going to be further revisions coming today from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and those will be national updates, and they will also be localized from what I understand. So that should actually get us an idea of where we are with respect to jobs. And those updates are going to go back to March of last year. So you may have remembered that this time last year we were having the same conversation about downward revisions. So it's entirely possible that these further downward revisions are going to show that we are struggling when it comes to employment. And another indication of where that struggle is that the report of job openings, which came out last week as well, shows that overall now we've got fewer openings than we have people looking for work. It's just below that ratio of 1. And this is the first time that that's been the case for a pretty long time. It, of course, was the case back during COVID, and then openings just exploded to where they were really high. And because of the weakening of openings, fewer openings, and more people looking for work, in some parts due to layoffs and other factors, you have a much more, at least in terms of how the statistics look like, competitive job market for employers. And employers are also still having to work through all the disruptions that have taken place here in 2025. Certainly concerns about the impact of tariffs. Now that it looks like that tariffs, regardless of what's going on with the courts, I think in general businesses are probably realizing that tariffs are going to be around for a while. At least I would say through at least the end of this term. Even if the Democrats were to take over Congress next year, I don't see them being able to break it. I just don't. I don't see a path there. So I think businesses are starting to plan that way. And then the question is, does that mean that you reshore production, or does that mean you just simply plan to continue to buy, pay the tariff, and adjust your prices? So it's going to be one or the other. And obviously it has to fit with respect to the market. Of course, what it also means is that there's continuing to be greater and greater pressure on interest rates, and the likelihood that the Federal Reserve will, before the end of this month, they'll probably do it next week, will actually make a cut to interest rates, which is something that a lot of people have called for, especially the president. Personally, I don't believe that's the best idea, because the reality is, even though overall employment is not growing, workers are still seeing rises in their wages. Wage growth is still happening. And that tells me that we're still dealing with issues in the market, and we're seeing challenges with respect to inflation. And if you lower interest rates, there's a good chance inflation is going to pick up. Now, I think the 2% target that the Fed has is unrealistic. I've said that before. It should be somewhere between 3 and 4 right now until other circumstances change. But the fact is, I think that really it's about the labor market. And I didn't put this in the article because I'm still looking through it, but I did read something this morning talking about that. For example, if you're a supply side economist and you believe that the key to economic growth is increasing supply, well, one of the things right now is, while there might be some more people looking for work, we have also seen a drop in labor supply, in large part due directly or indirectly to immigration enforcement. And so what that has done is it has created a very challenging situation for businesses that are dependent upon these workers. Certainly, the one who wrote the article talks about agriculture, but you can also say the same for manufacturing, as the example from this past week in Georgia at the Hyundai facility. I did not include that in the article. I'm mentioning it here, and that's not intended to be political at all. It is, however, something that has to be factored into this overall discussion, and trying to figure out how do we establish some kind of normalcy or some kind of stability amidst this very challenging environment right now that employers and businesses and households are dealing with respect to the economy. Certainly, there are people that are probably happy that it's going the way it's going. That's unfortunate. There are also, of course, are opportunities for people to try to kind of build something right now that does require a lot of risk in this current situation. And I would say generally people prefer to be risk averse, and for good reason. So we'll see where things go. Obviously, when it comes to the economy, in my opinion, the key indicator is the direction of employment, because that also affects wages, which really helps drive local economies. So if you're looking at it from your local perspective, look at it with respect to where jobs are locally, where wages are, and really trying to understand how that may change how the economy feels in your community or in your region here in the coming months. That's all I got for this morning. Everybody take care. I'll see you later.